Okay, so Boucher Guitars is not a big manufacturer like the American Big Three, for example. Boucher Guitars is a small company, a small team of around 15 people. Okay, and but they are so experienced craftsmen, and we manufacture around 400, 500 guitars a year with the utmost attention to details. And those guitars are 100% handmade and without any compromise on the quality of the material that we use. No compromise. Every effort is made to ensure that the name of Boucher Guitar inspires so much confidence. And we want that every owner of a Boucher guitar has the feeling of belonging to a community of privileged people. We work hard for it. In 2011, okay, I decided to spend at least 1 month in the USA in order to improve my knowledge about the acoustic guitar culture of American people. And I realized that I will have a lot of work to do, when back home. In 2013, I decided to make a second trip, 6-week trip this time. It was in order to try and play and examine some real pre-war II guitars made by Martin. Why? Because in my first trip, I realized that the famous pre-war II guitars were for American people what Stradivarius violin are for the whole world. They are so, American people, they are so proud about those guitars. And I realized that they are so traditional. The thinking is so traditional. Square head. If you make a guitar with mahogany, you cannot put herringbone on the guitar because what's that? And I said in my mind, why? But this traditional thinking comes from the best guitar ever built in the world. In the 30s, from 32nd to 39th, something like that, yeah. So I did some calls before leaving Canada, and I called Mr. George Grun at Grun Guitars in Nashville. And George said, "Oh, Robin, it will be a pleasure to welcome you in my shop, And yes, I have several real pre-war Martins in stock. And I will borrow some from from my clients, in order to get the more guitars that I can get for you." And when I was there, it was a Friday. He invited me to move at the third level of his store, and then I was in front of I would say 10 or 12 real pre-war Martin, you know. And I remember him laughingly said to me, Robin, you know, as you make good guitars, and as you are the only guy to have that kind of expertise with the Adirondack Red Spruce, because, you know, your grade, how many? I said 15 to 20,000 tops a year, you know. And then he repeated, you know, you make good guitars, and you are a super expert of how to select Adirondack Red Spruce. So if somebody on the earth can crack the code of these guitars, it's you. You know. So I examined those guitars, and I realized some points, you know. And then when I came back here in Canada, I said to my workers, okay, we should stop saying that we make really great guitars. Now I know what great guitars are. And we have to change this, and that, make our guitars way more lighter, okay? And I think that I cracked the code on some points, you know. So we started to make three different tests. One test with the bracing, one test with the wood drying process, and the third test was changing some wood species inside the guitar. Okay? So we started with those three tests, and they were relevant. So after that, I said to my guys, okay, so now we have to make 4 OMs, East Indian rosewood back and sides, 4 OMs, mahogany back and sides, okay? And on top of the 3 tests that we did before, I had another 3 tests. So we did 3 bunches of 4 guitars of East Indian rosewood and mahogany, okay? Then we did exactly the same thing with a triple O size, okay? And dreadnoughts. And after those 32 guitars achieved, after the achievement of those 32 guitars, all the tests, test number 1, test number 2, test number 3 were relevant again. So at the end of 2013, we started to make our new generation of guitars, you know, in combining those 3 tests on the same guitar. You see what I mean? Okay. So with those 3 tests bundled together, the difference in terms of sound, playability, volume, projection was so huge compared to the guitars we made before, we built before. that was the turning point of Boucher guitars, because we cannot, even if the first generation, the old generation are good guitars, there's no comparison. There's no comparison at all. We were in December 2013. 1 month later, we were at NAMM, because it is in January. So NAMM 2014. And I asked the guy, a bluegrass guy, come to my booth and try my guitars, you know, because I was so proud. And that guy was blown away by the difference, because he was aware about, you know, the guitar that the old generation of guitars, yeah, of Boucher guitars. So when he played it for the very first time, he said, man, we are in another world. And this year, in 2014, in that year, you know, we won the NAMM boutique guitar category. After we won the NAMM at the NAMM show, you know, I was so proud. My workers were so proud, and we kept, you know, the recipe, but we worked how we could improve it, you know, because when we are on the right way, it's easier to spot, you know, what we do well and do bad or less well. So, and then, you know, at the end of 2014, the whole recipe, you know, the whole new recipe was achieved, and we changed nothing since. The philosophy on the Boucher guitars is so simple. It stands on only one sentence. Every single day, I tell my workers, don't try to find the way to do much faster. Just try to find the way much better. That's it. I think it means everything. Quebec is made from wood and water. So that's why Quebec forest industry has more than 200 business, you know, sawmills and something like that. Creates more than 400,000 jobs here. And you know that we are so familiar with red spruce here, because, you know, we use exclusively red spruce on our guitars. So the red spruce trees grow right here, you know, in Quebec. It grows with maple, you know, in fields of maple and yellow birch as well. And we are here in Berthier-sur-Mer. We are surrounded by the biggest concentration of red spruce trees in the world, you know, because the red spruce trees grew exclusively in the Appalachian Mountain, okay? And we are spot on in the middle of the Appalachian Mountain here. So Boucher guitars models are defined by the wood we use and the body size of the guitar, okay? So talking wood, the top and its bracing are exclusively made from red spruce, but not only red spruce, top quality red spruce, you know, because remember, I grade 15,000 to 20,000 tops a year, and be sure that I keep the best ones from those 20,000 for my guitars.
Just let me, I don't want to interrupt. You grade 15,000 a year?
Yeah, at least by myself, always me. Yeah, because I don't want to miss one good top for my guitars.
So the best that usually out of the 15,000, you're keeping the best?
I keep la crème de la crème. You know? Yeah. And it's absolutely normal. You know, from 2005 to 2010, I sold thousands of stops to the big American companies, you know, Gibson, Martin, Taylor. And I decided to stop it. Why? Because first I wanted, they bought me the best stuff I had, you know, and I wanted to keep it for myself. And the quality that you find on the quality of red spruce top that you find on a Boucher guitar is so high. And it's very, very rare. So why selling those tops to my, I will not say my competitors, because we are not competitors. We do not compete together. But as it's rare, and I want to see my company growing and growing and growing, it's a must that I keep those tops for my own production. And I decided a few years ago to eliminate some tone woods for the back and sides from my offering. You know, because sometimes, you know, the client, the customer, the end user wants me to buy, to build a guitar for him with his own wood. But I don't know where this wood come from, you know. So I said, whoa, wait a minute. I am the builder. I will decide which wood I will use for my guitars. So now, since 2014, we use East Indian rosewood, Brazilian mahogany, bubinga, African bubinga, American walnut, the black walnut, and Canadian flamed big leaf maple. Sometimes we use Madagascar rosewood and Brazilian rosewood. And few guitars have been made with cocobolo. But now it's very, very difficult to get cocobolo. So that's the wood I use on my guitars. And the reason why we built enough guitars now to be able to know that the Palo Escrito is a good wood, Zericote is a good wood, Snakewood is the, but the other guitars, the other tone woods are sound-wise and mechanical-wise better than those exotic wood. You know what? Scalloping. Often I compare scalloping with the pilot, the aircraft pilot when is approaching the tarmac. If we scallop a brace, sometimes it's like the pilot goes below the tarmac when he's approaching. So if he does that, it's a airplane crash. It's exactly the same with the Luthier. If we go too far on the brace with the chisel, we scrapped the entire soundboard, or we are losing the consistency of the guitar sound, of the Boucher guitar sound. And we cannot do it. We have to be constant, Here, we don't use the knives, for the scalloping. We sand the braces because in that way, we have way more control. Because, with a knife, we can break the brace. We never break a brace in sanding, with the sanding process, and we can be so precise. Yeah, the accuracy is almost perfect. I would say not almost. The accuracy is perfect. I cannot explain you in details our wood torrefaction process, because the preparation of the wood for torrefaction and certain steps, certain roasting stages are parts of the secrets of Boucher guitars. Okay, so this being said, here is what I can tell you. First of all, it's very important to know that the wood are mainly made from two components. The first is the cellulose. Second is the hemicellulose. And the third is the lignin. The cellulose and the hemicellulose are the wood fiber. Okay? And I'll name them the good and the ugly. The lignin is a natural polymer. Okay? It's like a glue. Okay? And I will nickname it the bad. Every cabinet maker, every luthier dreams of a lignin-free wood, because the lignin is the cause of the wood movements. The lignin reacts really badly, okay? When the wood is surrounded by an environment below 50% 5% of humidity. The lignin to extract the humidity inside the wood. It should be the opposite, but it's not the opposite. Okay? So when the humidity is higher than 50%, the lignin tries to absorb that humidity. So that's why the wood moves like that. But I'm sure that you realize that an old barn lumber board, you know, the grayish board, that kind of boards do not move anymore. Why? It's because the lignin disappeared. So the lignin, years after years, disappears and disappears. 20, 30 years later, there's no lignin inside the wood. And what we have to understand is the lignin is a kind of glue, like I said, a kind of polymer, so there's no sound properties in that components. The sound properties are cellulose and hemicellulose. So in 2008, I learned that the torrefaction process breaks the lignin inside the wood. But the generic recipe, the MAHOGANY, the cellulose and the hemicellulose as well. So it's no good for a luthier. So I asked Forintech, the research and development department at Université Laval of Quebec. I asked the teachers there to help me to develop a torrefaction recipe in order to break the lignin without damaging the wood fiber, without damaging the cellulose and the hemicellulose. And we realized together, in order to manage to create that kind of recipe, I had on my side to prepare the wood before the torrefaction process. It took 1.5 years to come up with a recipe. So I had to stabilize the wood, prepare the wood, put it in the torrefaction oven, and find the good temperature, because the usual recipe, the temperature is so high. So we reduced the temperature and we let the wood inside the oven for a longer time. And in that way, we broke the lignin, but the cellulose and the hemicellulose stayed at 100% good. So, using that wood on acoustic guitar is like a dream, because the instrument is the stability. The stability of the instrument is way more good. We just have to try a really good vintage guitar. And we realize that the guitar sounds better than an exactly same guitar made by the same builder. A brand new guitar. Why? It's because the lignin is not there. And the wood fiber, the cellulose and the hemicellulose, are now together. No interference caused by the lignin. The torrefaction process artificially aged the wood for 20, 30 years. And it works. And it works. So I often have that question, what kind of finish you use on your guitars, Robin? Here we use the PU, you know, polyurethane. I know that, you know, the nitrocellulose is good, the French polish is good. Polyester could be good too. But the key point is the thickness of the product that we apply on the wood. So if you want a good sounding guitar, you have to find a way to put only 6 to 8 thousandths of an inch thick of your product, you know? So if you manage to be able to use polyester and put it at 7 thousandths of an inch thick, you're good. And nitro or PU as well. That's the key point. Sometimes the people say, oh, Robin, make me a guitar without any finish. I said, why? Because it will sound better. No, 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 no. The finish is a part of the recipe. And you know what? It's almost impossible to keep a guitar, an acoustic guitar, alive without the outside finish, because the guitar will be so reactive under the humidity. The finish protect the guitar from the lack of humidity or too much humidity. And it's a part of the sound recipe as well. The very first acoustic guitar company was Les Guitares Normands. And you know what? Les Guitares Normands was founded by my uncle, Norman Boucher. So several articles said 1968, but the reality, my uncle founded Les Guitares Normands, of Norman Guitars, at the end of 1967. Yeah. I think it's November, maybe December, something like that. Yeah. And you know why he founded Boucher Guitars? The real reason, the first reason why he founded Norman Guitars? In 1966, Claude, his son, okay, asked my uncle to buy him a D28 Martin guitar in order to improve the sound of his band called the GTOs. And uncle replied, you know, Claude, I cannot buy you, you know, a D28 Martin because it's too much expensive for me, you know, so for some financial reason, you know. But you know what, my son? I will build one guitar for you. And and as you may imagine, and trust me, my uncle was a man of his word. And less than 1 year later, the first Norman guitar was born. So in 1967, my uncle was a cabinet maker, and he closed his factory and reopened it as a guitar builder, you know, in 67. He based his, you know, his knowledge on a D35 Martin, okay? And his goal is to make a guitar sounding better than a D35, you know? And he also based his work on Gibson Hummingbird. Yeah. My uncle's family still have that Gibson Hummingbird and the very first Norman guitar, and I have the D35 here. We have really nice ambassadors, such J.P. Cormier, Patrick Normand, Richard Bennett, Michel Rivard, Bruce Cockburn, Fred Pellerin, Buddy Robertson from Flat Lonesome. Now we have Jake Workman, you know, the famous bluegrass guitar player. He's on board now. Jonathan Roy, and Jesse Siebenberg, the guy who replaced Roger Oxen in the Supertramp band. So we are proud. We are proud, and we are proud to be the official builder of the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2017. The Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame asked us to build guitars for Michel Rivard from Beaudommage, Mr. Stéphane Venn, Neil Young, and Bruce Cockburn. And they all play our guitars. That's cool. Michel Rivard is a great friend of mine. He was and he's still my idol. And Bruce Cockburn and Neil Young as well. They were my idols. Bruce did some videos and at Acoustic Guitar Magazine and other places like that. I was so proud when I see him playing our guitars, you know. And on his last album, he mostly used his guitar that we built for him at the Canadian Songwriters Hall of Fame. And Michel Rivard is using his guitars almost every day. And I heard by Neil Young's producers, Mr. Hanlon, that Neil is in love with his Boucher guitar, and he plays it every day at home, you know. So it is very cool. It is very motivating, you know, for me and for all the crew here. Yeah. So remember, the first one that I named is J.P. Cormier. J.P. is more than a nice guitar player. Is a real friend of mine now. When I met him in Halifax for the very first time, I was so blown away and so impressed by that big humble guy. And I fell in love with him. And this guy is an amazing storyteller as well. And he made me crying very often when I checked his video. I remember one when he tried the parlor, the small parlor. I was with Guillaume in Germany, and Guillaume showed it, to me. Hey, Robin, take a look at that JP's video. Thank you so much, JP, for thinking about that. You're right when you say that I put my heart in my guitars, and like you put your heart when you play guitar, So I'm so grateful. You're such a big guy, a big friend, a big help for Boucher guitars, and I'm so grateful for that. And Mr. Patrick Normand aussi, yes, aussi. Patrick, merci beaucoup pour avoir été un ambassadeur comme tu as été. Patrick, you're such a big ambassador here in Quebec for us, and I'm so grateful. Without you, I don't know where Boucher guitars would be, So, thanks again.